Well, Dave, are we ready to roll?
Dave, I think you're still on mute.
Okay, we're ready to go. We are on YouTube.
Excellent. I'd like to call to order the January 3rd meeting of the Aviation Advisory Commission. First order of business would be the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join in the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands,
For which
one
is
nation,
nation, under God,
nation,
indivisible.
liberty and justice for all.
Liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. For some reason, I don't see the agenda in front of me. There we go.
Chair Robert Trimborn,
Here.
Vice Chair James Flickinger. Gary Jacobs has been excused. Maggie Bird,
I'm here.
Adriana Vondergraaf,
Present.
Nanette Metz has been excused. Bobby Williams,
here.
Steve Weiss,
Here.
Steve Tannehill.
Here.
Okay, your commission has a quorum.
Thank you. Next item of business is agenda review. Any comments of the commissioners as far as the agenda is concerned? Hearing none, we will move to approval of the minutes of the December 6th, 2021 meeting of the Aviation Advisory Commission. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Steve Weiss, so moved.
Have a second?
Adriana Vandegraff, second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Chair Trimborn,
Aye.
Maggie Bird,
Here. Sorry, I was muted. Okay.
thank you. Adriana Vondergraaf
Here.
and Bobby Williams,
Aye.
Steve Weiss,
Aye.
Steve Tannehill.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next item is public comment period. Anna, do you want to brief the public?
Yes, please. Thank you. If you would like to be added to the public comment queue, please be connected via Zoom. If not already connected and wish to make a public comment, you can find the Zoom link on the last page of the meeting agenda, which can be found at vcairports.org/meeting-calendar. If you wish to make a public comment on agenda item number 5, please press the raise hand button now, or if you're calling in today, press star then 9 to be added to the speaker queue.
I don't see any chair. I don't see any attendees with their hands raised at this time.
Thank you, Dave. Hearing no public comment, then we'll move on to new business. I'd like to scroll to the next new business items, please. The first item on the agenda is nomination and election of the chair and vice chair for the Aviation Advisory Commission. I will entertain a nomination for the chair.
Steve Weiss here. Query. I know that Commissioner Flickinger is the vice chair, and I believe he missed the previous meeting, and he's not here tonight. If Anna, can you elaborate on is he with us, available, or where are we at?
Mr. Flickinger remains on the commission, and it would be up to the chair if multiple absences are noticed. It would be up to the chair of the commission to bring that to the airport's attention to look into it further. But I can comment that Mr. Flickinger remains on the commission, and the vice chair, yes, would normally go to the chair, but that is not a Brown Act rule. The commission is free to select whomever they so choose.
At this time, I'd like to nominate James Flickinger as the chair of the Aviation Advisory Commission.
Are there any other nominations for the floor? Hearing none, call for a vote for James Flickinger for chair of the Aviation Advisory Commission.
Robert Trimborn,
Aye.
Maggie Bird,
Yes,
Adriana Vondergraaf,
Yes,
Bobby Williams,
Aye.
Steve Weiss,
Aye.
Steve Tannehill.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously.
I guess since he's not in attendance, then I guess it's subject to his acceptance of the nomination. How does that work, Mr. Keith? Mr. Director, do you have any comments on that?
I would agree with that, that he would need to accept that. And we will wait for the next meeting.
Okay. I'll entertain a nomination for vice chair for the Aviation Advisory Commission. I'll nominate Adriana Vandergraaf as vice chair. Do I hear any other nominations for the floor? Hearing none, I'll call for the question.
Robert Trimborn,
Aye.
Maggie Bird,
yes,
Adriana Vondergraaf,
yes,
Bobby Williams,
Yes.
Steve Weiss,
Aye.
Steve Tannehill.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously.
Well, since the chair is not present, the vice chair then assumes the position of chair for this meeting. So Adriana, you are in control.
thank you. I'm not quite seeing the agenda. If I,
yep, we'll go to 6B, Adriana.
6B, where might I see that?
Can you see the screen with the?
I can see this, I can just see the screen, but I just see I see video. Let's see what I can do here.
Go down on your taskbar and click on the blue camera. See if that brings up another screen for you.
Just working on it. Thank you.
And Vice Chair, I can help out as well.
Okay, fine. I've got it.
Okay.
I've got it. Thank you. My apologies. I've got 3 different computers going here. 6B is the lease agreement, Burr Family Trust, and I'd like to turn this over to discussion on Burr Family Trust and the attached amendments, please.
This is-
Just go ahead.
Yes, I can give a little more background, and Madeline's here to give any further details if needed.
Thank
But
you.
basically, it's the family trust desiring to modify their existing lease, is splitting one lease into 2 separate leases And then assign one of those two subtenants of that lease. So we support that. And Madeline from our office is here to provide any additional details if so desired.
All right, so there are actually two leases that we're seeking your approval for amendment. One is 65A and B, splitting into two, and the other is an amendment to 65C, which is a separate lease incorporating some new language into that lease, which talks about access and maintenance of a shared ramp.
Okay. Any concerns with this splitting?
Well, that's what we addressed in the additional language about sharing the ramp and maintenance. So we've accomplished with our concerns about ending up trying to manage a ramp that we don't have any party to. We added language to both leases to protect all the parties for access and maintenance. And there's no fiscal change. So the lease for 65A and B is going to be split into two leases, which have the same parameters and terms. It's just that they're going to be separate lease parcels and separate lease premises. And those are going to be assigned to Mr. Burr's existing subtenants who occupy the space.
Thank you.
It's a little confusing, but we tried to make it manageable so that our overriding concern was the management of the ramp and the maintenance of the ramp and making sure that everybody continued to have access as things change through the lease.
Okay. At this point, you're looking for approval. Let's see, do we want to call for the question at this point, or are we looking for a motion to go ahead and approve the author to move a motion for approval?
Adriana, should we have some discussion or see if anybody has questions?
I'm here to answer any questions.
Madeline, my question is, it looks like the lease now will be assigned to the subtenant.
Correct.
Does that, I guess my question is, as far as our counterparty
Point of
goes-
order. Point of order. Let's have a motion and a second before we have a discussion. We get redundant on these things.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Could we have a motion first for approval?
This is
So
Bob
moved.
Trimble. I'll second for discussion. Bob Trimble.
Okay, now discussion.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Bob. So my question is, if it's assigned to a subtenant, do we have a counterparty? Does the airport have a counterparty, with the same ability to perform under the agreement as the current counterparty, the Kim and Burr family, Bill Burr Family Trust?
So there's two things that we're requesting approval for, and both of them are amendments. We don't need approval for the assignment, but to answer your question, if I think you mean counterparty, you mean a separate party. Originally, the lease was under the name of the trust with Bill Burr, and now it's going to be in two different operators. One is Brett Lee, who operates a maintenance shop, and the other is Studio Wings, who is another aviation business there. So we don't typically review financials or anything of that nature on an amendment such as this. But yes, I mean, you would be changing from one tenant to two separate tenants.
And Madeline, if I understood what I think you said, you're saying that the right to assign the lease is built into the lease and they already have that right to assign it?
The right to assign the lease, the right to approve an assignment of lease rests with the Department of Airports. The right to amend a lease needs Board of Supervisors approval.
Okay, well, that would be my only question, is if we're.
I don't
getting a
think,
new counter-
Madeline, I don't think you answered Steve's question. Is like, do the existing tenants have the right to ask to have the lease amended?
I'm not sure. I'm still unclear as to I thought that Mr. Tannehill was asking me about the ability to perform of the two new tenants versus the original tenant. Did I misunderstand?
Does the original tenant have the right to assign their lease?
Bill Burr has the right to request an assignment of lease.
But it requires our approval. or the
No,
DOA's approval. The
it
DOA's
requires
approval.
DOA approval to assign this lease. Yes. So you will see 3 documents in this attachment. The first exhibit is an assignment just for the purposes of reading that document. And the second 2 documents have to do with the amendments to the lease for 65A and B. And the third one is for the amendment to 65C.
So that's, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I have no problem with this, but I don't believe we should release the Burr family from any liability under the original lease. So I would amend the thing to those tenants.
So your request is noted.
And my only comment, and thank you, Steve, and thank you, Madeline, is just simply that we have a counterparty. I presume when you sign the lease with them, you look at their financials, their ability to perform under the obligations of the lease. If they're going to assign it to someone else and step out of that obligation, I would hope we would make sure that the new party is equally capable of meeting the lease obligations and or do as Mr. Weiss suggests and keep the original lessee obligated under the lease.
So we'll relook at the assignment, but again, that's not subject to, that's not a party to this request here, but thank you for the recommendation.
I did not understand that, and thank you for that clarification.
Perhaps you could clarify that, Madeline, please.
So the assignment of lease is attached for the purposes of connecting all the dots, but the 2 items that are here for approval are the amendment to lease for 65A and B and 65C.
So
Because those need to go to the Board of Supervisors for approval.
Right. So what we're suggesting is amending that proposal where the original lessees are still obligated. And
Right, so that falls under the assignment of lease document, that language, because the assignment of lease is the document that is going out to the subtenants, but it's not the amendment to the lease. But I mean, we've taken your comment, and I understand how you'd like to incorporate it. It's clear.
well, wait, we're an advisory body, so
Mhm.
we're giving our suggestions. The Board of Supervisors can do whatever the hell they want to do.
Right, I
So-
understand, and what I'm stating is I understand your request.
So do I have a motion to this agenda item to hold the lease with the family trust as primary
Point of order.
and obligated under the
I don't,
assignment?
Mr.
there's a-
Trimble,
There's a point of order here. I think you have to amend your recommendation to approve the staff recommendation, Mr. Weiss, to include I guess it'd be a second recommendation or an amended recommendation that would include the assignment provision. You need to articulate what that would be and ask for for me to agree to second that change. Is that correct, Mr. Freitas?
I would agree.
So you need to amend your recommendation to the board.
I believe that would be correct. Mr. Freitas?
Yeah, again, I want to make a point that I think Madeline's trying to make clear is you're asking something that we airport department approve, that's different than what this is. The amendments are going, that's a separate issue that's going before the board. So that's what we're asking for is the amendments. What you're
Okay,
asking is a different thing that we do in the assignment process.
okay, so,
I have a question, excuse me.
no,
So
that's fine.
the assignment of the lease is provided for in the lease agreement. Is that correct, Mr. Friedman?
Madeline?
Bob, just to answer the question, so the assignment of lease is a request from Bill Burr as part of his lease to have the Department of Airports approval to assign his lease.
That's correct. And the lease provides for that. Is that correct?
The lease
For the
provides
assignment.
mechanisms to do that, yes.
Great. And so the staff has reviewed the assignment to ensure that it meets the requirements of the lease agreement
Yes. And the documents.
and the document. So if we were to change the assignment clause within the agreement, that would require a renegotiation of the lease to provide for a different assignment clause.
No, it would just require some discussion with the other party's attorney to modify the language in the assignment document to make it clear that the underlying tenant would not be released from liability.
Thank you.
So what I'm hearing from Madeline is that, you know, the breaking of the lease or the subdividing of the lease, if you will, that needs the board's approval. So they want our recommendation because that's our job to recommend to the board. The assignment side is within the power of DOA to handle. And as such really is, while we can express our opinion, which I think we have, I would really defer to DOA because that's their job. That's what they're hired to do. If it's not our job to advise them on that, then I would just stop and leave it at, you've heard what we've had to say. I think you said that, Madeline. Thank you for hearing us and defer to you to do that which is within your authority to do the assignment and just focus on the breakup of the lease into subleases.
Right, the amendment to the leases would be to break it up and to add the additional language about the ramp access and maintenance. So if you like, you can leave your original
Yeah.
motion as is.
Is there a second to the original motion?
There was, I seconded. I tried. Option.
Okay, could we have all those in favor? Could we have a roll call, please?
I see we have, Chair, I see, Vice Chair, I see we have an attendee with their hand in the air.
I'm sorry?
Scott Bear has a request to provide comment on this question.
I don't know that we can do.
I don't think we can do that. I'm not sure.
A member of the public can comment on any agenda item.
Yes.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Bear.
I'm bringing him in. He should be ready momentarily. Mr. Bear, can you hear?
There we go. Just a quick comment. If you're proposing something that's different from the attached documents that were part of the agenda, you may have a Brown Act issue. And I would urge you to maybe re-agendize this if you're going to seek to modify the documents that are part of the agenda, or at least seek advice from county council.
Thank you, Mr. Bear. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, this is Steve Weiss. I have problems with that. First of all, and I defer to Adriana. we're an advisory group here. County council doesn't dictate what we do. We can't even ask county council for a position. So we have to do what we believe is right on this. And since we're an advisory group and we in the past have given our input to the director of airports of what we believe is right, at the end of the day, the board of supervisors does whatever they want to do. So either we don't even need this commission if we're just going to rubber stamp anything that the DOA wants to do. So let's get with it, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Any further comments? Okay, can we move to a vote, please? Roll call.
Robert Trimborn,
Aye.
Maggie Bird,
Yes.
Adriana Vondergraaf,
Yes.
Bobby Williams,
Aye.
Steve Weiss,
No,
Steve Tannehill.
Yes,
That motion passes 5-1.
let the record show that I voted no on that, please.
Will do.
Okay, we can go on to 6C. Oh, my favorite topic, adoption of resolution 5, authorizing remote teleconference meetings for a 30-day period. I thought we had come to some sort of a decision that we weren't going to have to do this every time. Recommendation, adopt the attached resolution authorizing remote teleconference meetings for a 30-day period pursuant to the Government Code Section 54953 of the Ralph Brown Act. Mr. Freitas, any additional comments?
The only thing I want to do is address what your statement first was. We are working with county council to see if there is a way, as other jurisdictions have done, to capture this for all committees, subcommittees, as well as the board. At this point, it doesn't look like that is going to happen, but at least we are asking the question. And
Much appreciated, Mr. Freitas.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, is there a motion for the approval of the adoption?
I'll move approval of adopting this resolution.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. Trimborn.
Okay. All in favor of, roll call, please.
Robert Trimborn,
Aye.
Maggie Bird,
Yes.
Discussion, Adriana.
My apologies, Mr. Weiss. Discussion indeed.
I would like to amend the motion to make it 35 days and let county council wake up to this stuff. We're just passing the baton off here. I mean, we had this discussion last meeting, so we don't even need to vote. If you guys just want to approve everything that county council or whatever that the DOA wants to do, we just don't need this body. This is absurd. I asked, and Director Freitas, your predecessor, I asked what the fiscal impact is to the county when we have to have an additional meeting. I expect to hear next meeting what that is, because we need to wake Sacramento up, or the interpretation by the Ventura Board of Supervisors. As we've heard, other counties are not addressing this situation in the same way. So I see no reason for this board to rubber stamp this resolution.
I agree with that. And I like the idea of 35 days. If we can't do anything better than that, because the next meeting is 35 days from now.
Exactly.
You know, if we leave it at 30, then we have an additional meeting in there.
But comment, if this is state law, that we could only continue the resolution for 30 days, as a board or even the board of supervisors cannot amend the state law if it requires a 30-day notice period. So I don't know what good it would be to go for 35 days in violation of the state law.
Well, so are you saying, Robert, that these other bodies in the state, like where Keith came from, Contra Costa and others, are in breach of the assembly bill?
No, I'm saying as far as we have to do with the county council advises the commission or the staff that we have to pass this continuing resolution, resolution number 5, as currently stated, then that's the position of county council when it comes to this Brown Act amendment or resolution. City of Santa Barbara, the city council passes a similar resolution covering all the commissions and all the boards within the city of Santa Barbara. Now, I'm not an attorney. I don't profess to be one. I'm not going to opine about that. But at this point in time, county council is recommending to staff and to us that we pass this resolution pending their review of those actions. And that's my interpretation.
Other comments?
I think
Mr.
it's
Weiss?
absurd. I think it's absurd. We're
It
going
is.
down this rat hole again. And I think we should call on the Board of Supervisors if they want to do the resolution, let them do the resolution on behalf of the Department of Airports and release us of something that they're dictating to us.
Now, is this, I'm asking for a piece of clarification. Is this the Board of Supervisors or is this the interpretation of the county council?
Well, I guess I will try to answer that. Is this
Thank you.
code is state code. And to meet Brown Act requirements, you as a commission need to follow that. So that's the interpretation. The question, which we did pose on behalf of this commission, was could we, as other entities have done, you know, because they meet weekly, it's much easier for them than those of us commissions that meet monthly or quarterly, things like that. It's much more difficult, obviously. So their interpretation is that we would be at risk, the entire county and obviously all the commissions and subcommittees and things like that, should they take one action to blanket cover everybody. So that's their interpretation. But this is state act is the 30 days, and Commissioner Trimborn is correct. The 30 days is not negotiable. It is 30 days period per that, signed by the governor.
So
Thank
this act was passed in January of last year, and we were totally transparent up until this came to a head in September of last year. So what happened for 9 months where we were like not in adherence of this assembly bill? Should we shut the whole thing down? Put our arms up and go to jail?
Yeah, Steve, reading the document, it says that Governor Gavin Newsom signed AB 361 into law in September 16th, 2021. So that's what we're responding to, is the change that was enacted September 16th, is that correct?
Steve, this is Dave. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
I think the consequence for voting it down is that you would be required to meet in person.
Also be in violation of the Brown Act if we went for 35 days.
I see. Okay, so although I personally have a great, I can agree with Mr. Weiss, I don't think we have a choice in the matter. Is there a motion to approve?
I believe there's already been a motion in a second.
Well, so
Yeah.
that we're not in violation by voting against it, we could all abstain, and leave it to the Board of Supervisors.
If we abstain, I don't know if we could meet that.
I don't think,
Yeah, I mean, the frame I put around it, and I understand what, Steve is saying, but it's a state of emergency. The Brown Act bends over backwards to allow public observation, participation in that which we do. So I think if it's erring on the side of making sure, if we're going to meet remotely, that we don't do it for an extended period of time, that in the spirit of the Brown Act, we should meet in person as soon as possible. And that's why they've said it's only for 30 days, and only if you determine a state of emergency exists, only then can you meet virtually. And, maybe that needs to be changed now with Omicron, and this thing's going to go on for a while, but that's the way I understand it.
So you know what? In order to play these games, which is ridiculous, totally ridiculous on my part, and I don't want to be a party to this thing. So what I'm suggesting, we have scheduled our meetings between 25 and 30 days from the previous meeting, so that we don't have to have an additional meeting here to rubber stamp this travesty. It's a travesty. Our group has been totally transparent. We get the word out to the public. We publish what we're doing, and this is knee-jerk reaction, in my opinion, on the part of the government. And you know what? I don't care that Gavin Newsom signed this or any other group. They don't give any thought, and they don't give any thought to the physical impact of these bills that they're signing. So our group can be different here. So I suggest we amend, and we have our next meeting instead of on the Monday, the whatever it is, the 7th, that we have it the Friday or the Wednesday before, within the 30-day period.
Would that be considered a special meeting, Director Friedrich? We meet outside normal scheduled meetings of the commission.
Yeah, I mean, if it deviates from the bylaws, then we'd have to take a look at that for sure.
And I'm just reading this, so I'm doing this off the top of my head. But as I read it, in order for us to meet virtually and not meet in person, we have to pass this, whether we meet within 30 days or not. It's a statement that says there's a state of emergency, and therefore we are going to meet remotely. But that finding that we make is only good for 30 days. We have to do it again every 30 days if we are going to continue to meet remotely. So as I read it, if we are to meet remotely, we must pass this, whether we meet remotely next week or 35 days from now.
Exactly. So, but it's incumbent on us to meet within the 30-day period instead of having to have another meeting to vote on the continuing resolution. That's my objection to this thing. I don't object to the resolution here, but we get off base and then we have a meeting just to vote on.
Mr. Freitas, I have a question for you. Is there this virtual meeting that we have to have within the 30 days? Does that have to be a meeting in the form of this? Or could it be, let's say, a virtual meeting? Could it be something that is done as a vote online or something? Is there another way to accomplish that meeting than the form that we are using right now?
Yeah, that would require probably a discussion with county council. I mean, again, it's got to be a public meeting, even however short it is, whatever the topic is. So, if it's just a conference call or something like that, I don't think that would meet those requirements, but that would require us to consult county council to see what those parameters are.
Well,
a meeting like this is easier for us to set up. It's a process we're already in place to do. Obviously, it's an inconvenience for the members, the commission members. But as we all talked about and we all know, we are in unusual circumstances, and that's the best I can give you.
So
thank you.
So Director, what's the fiscal impact? Is DO, are you folks getting paid to attend these meetings?
Well, yes, we are paid.
Okay, there you go. That's my question. That's
we are.
absurd to have additional meetings.
Well,
Mr. Weiss, are they getting paid extra?
Yes.
Mr. Freitas, is this part of your regular salary?
Right. No, we are the folks that are here are all salaried, so it just means we're here late. I got here at 7:30 this morning, and I'm going on 12 plus hours as most of the staff are. So no, there's no additional costs. It just means less of the personal side, right? So there's a cost, but it's a part of the job that we do. So Anna, Dave, myself, there's no additional cost.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Weiss, I personally can agree with you 100%, but I don't think that we have a choice in this particular matter. Can we go ahead with the motion and the second and put it to a vote, please? Any other discussion?
We do not have any online.
Any other discussion? Okay, can we put it to a roll call vote, please?
Okay, Robert Trimborn. Mr. Trimborn.
Aye.
Thank you. Maggie Bird.
Yes, sorry, I had to mute.
Thank you, we got you. Adriana Vondergraaf.
Yes.
Bobby Williams.
Aye.
Steve Weiss. Mr. Weiss.
Go ahead. There you go.
Nay.
No, thank you. Steve Tannehill.
Yes.
That motion passes 5-1 with one dissension by Mr. Steve Weiss.
Okay, can we move on to director's report, please?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. I have several items I wanted to share. Top of my list was, I think I mentioned to the last meeting, was the Oxnard Noise Forum. Happy to report we had 15 folks in attendance, and it was a very select group on purpose. to help the airports department, focus on the things we can do to be the best neighbor we can, with the Oxnard Airport. So there was representatives from the communities of Oxnard Shores. Thank you, Steve Tannehill. Channel Islands and Via Marina. And then we had the air traffic manager and his senior air traffic controller from the Oxnard Airport Air Traffic Control Tower, airport staff, and then we had several owners and chief pilots from the local flight schools, both Camarillo and Oxnard. Spent about 2 hours, kind of quantifying the issues for the community members and things that we could look at, both air traffic and pilots and then the airport. And it was very productive for us. And we had 3 big surprises specifically for the community members that we were going to work on. They had a laundry list of things for us to look at that are going to take some time, but some of the big ones are, and I've got commitment from the county executive office to hire a community relations person specifically helping us and focusing on noise at both airports, installing and using new technologies. There's new air traffic, that basically do flight track, who's in the air, what altitudes, what they're doing. That'll help that new person, see what's going on, what things they can work on with the flight schools. And the last and the big one is that we just submitted for an FAA grant, $525,000 specifically, each airport, but a Part 150 noise study, where you spend with a consultant helping us, focusing on the things that we can do at each airport, focus on the community and noise, helping pilots and businesses be the best neighbor they can basically be. So that's kind of what we accomplished. And as I mentioned with the team, the airports have been there, both airports, been in place for more than 80 years. We didn't get where we were overnight. It's going to take some time and a lot of discussion and a lot of work. But there were some improvements short term. One of the big ones you've heard, I'm sure, from folks is right pattern, and the normal traffic is a left pattern. They were able to do some of that. The air traffic control folks can do that from time to time when able. So there are some short-term benefits immediately. But anyway, so that's the first item I have. Private hangar leases, you've heard me talk about. I know that's been going on for a couple of years. I just talked with our county council today. They are going back and forth, our county council with their legal counsel. And I've had discussions with their president, Scott Bear, who was on the line earlier. And we're heading in a good direction, and they're just doing language back and forth. My expectation is that I bring this, the final deal points back to this committee in the next meeting in February. Also talked about the JPA issue with the city of Camarillo. All I can report at this point is we continue to have discussions with the city, and they are favorable at this point. And we will continue those, and I'll brief you any significant milestones as they come about. One item I wanted to talk about, Madeline could add some, but basically we've been approached by the county. You've all read some of the challenges that the ports on the West Coast have had. Port Wainini is looking for additional space to store containers and some of their trailers. We're trying to work with them to find some properties that we have available in near Oxnard Airport to help with that whole issue. And we're in discussions with them as we speak. I did want to say, Dave, if you bring up, we do have a vacancy on this committee. If anybody, of anybody that's interested, to go onto the county's website and they can go through the application process. But wanted just to share that with committee members, anybody that knows somebody that might want to apply.
Mr.
No.
Director, Bruce Amos is on the line if you wanted to recognize him.
Bruce, I do. And Bruce, would you like to make a comment?
Good evening, guys. I just want to say it's been a pleasure working with all you guys. I've been splitting my time with California and Florida. California prices to buy something, it's been very difficult. So I came down to Florida, found a place and bought it. And so I'm going to be spending some time in Florida and California, and I wish all of you guys the best of luck. It's been a real pleasure working with you over the years.
We'll miss you, Bruce.
Hey,
Good luck, Bruce. We're gonna miss you for sure.
yeah,
Good
I
luck.
appreciate that. I got your emails. I'll try to keep in touch with you guys.
Thank you, Bruce.
Enjoy Florida.
All right.
Thank you, Bruce. And then the last item I wanted to just recognize a longtime tenant of the airport, John Slays. Unbelievable aviation resume. You can look at kind of a listing that they had for him. Just an unbelievable history. Joined the Navy at 17, then got a slot, U.S. Air Force, become a pilot. Flew things like the F-86, F-104, and then a 25-year career with United Airlines. Long time serving various community aviation foundations. So just wanted to end with that. The last thing, I'm sorry, one last thing. Dave, were you able to read off some of the, we did have a request last meeting to read off some of the operations and aircraft incident items. Do you have that, or you want me to do that?
No, I can just cover the idea that in the monthly activity report, which is in another item on this agenda, we did identify the number of operations that are local or touch and go operations at each airport. So for the month of November, at Camarillo, there's 13,874 total operations for the month. And of that number, 7,400 were touch and go operations. At Oxnard, there is a total for the month of 5,424, which is a slightly short month due to construction. And 3,274 of those were touch and goes. And that represents 60% of that activity. The 40% were airplanes that were coming, landing, and then stopping, versus those that continue to remain in the traffic pattern. And 3,274 for a month, for that month, represents an average of about 55 loops a day. So of the touch and go loops a day. And for the incidents, there was a question that was posed to staff by Steve Tannehill relative to the 9 incidents that are listed in the November report. And 4 of those were flat tires. And then a couple of other precautionary landings. There were no actual accidents. These were all just pilots exercising safety, or where we had a tire that went flat while operating on or adjacent to the runway. That just required a little bit of assistance to get off and to get service at a fixed base operation. So that just kind of is a peek inside that, and come to report. If you have additional questions, we can cover them there.
And Vice Chair, that is it for the director's report.
Thank you. Let's see, correspondence?
Adriana, do we have an
Yes.
opportunity to comment on the director's report?
Sure.
Thank you. So first of all, I want to compliment Director Freitas and his team, Dave Nafee and Anna Castro for being there, for putting that meeting together. I thought they did an excellent job, very professional, managed some personalities, managed some different interests perhaps, and they just did a very, very good job of it. I think it was highly valuable. I think people got to know each other a little bit. I hate these Zoom meetings. I think when you're together in person, you can start to build a relationship and build rapport. That started to happen. As Director Freitas said, one of the asks from the neighborhood is where possible, right traffic be employed for touch and goes. And that was supported by everybody. And the tower, Roger and Lee in the tower said, we're happy to do that wherever possible. So that was a big breakthrough. And indeed, there was a day where every plane flew right traffic. So I realize it can't happen all the time and it's a work in progress. And obviously, as the report shows, there still were 117 noise complaints, but I think we're on the right path. So I want to compliment Director Freitas and everybody for putting that together. Dave, with respect to the incidents, I've asked in the past that the detail be provided in the package. I think we got it for one package and then we haven't been getting it. I'd like to reiterate that request. I'd like to see that just in the package. Just if there's 9 incidents, just give us a little table and tell us what the incidents are. That would be appreciated. And I appreciate the information on the touch and goes and the traffic at each of the airports. So thank you for that.
Okay, any comments on reports? Correspondence? Commission comments? No commission comments? Let's move for adjournment.
Wait, Steve Weiss, I've got a comment. I see
Okay,
this is coming down the pike again. The Teal Club Road Development Project in
that's
Oxford. For those of you that are new on the commission, we've been down this road before.
multiple times, Steve.
Pardon me?
I was agreeing with you.
Okay, so we've been down the road before. There's only a few of us on the commission now that were back then. We threw out our objections, and it looks like this project's going forward with about 1,000 residential homes. If we think the present problems with noise, et cetera, are something that we're addressing, it's going to be nothing next to what's going to be going on with homes right alongside the runway. So what I suggest the Department of Airports get on their media links and make sure that we put out the word that there's going to be flyovers and noise and everything else. And this is something that you folks are going to have to live with and that the airport shouldn't have to deal with.
Thank you, Steve. I want to add a comment to that. I've lived in Camarillo, right under the approach path for Camarillo for 21 years. When I bought my house, I had to sign notices that I knew I was under the approach path, that I knew that there was going to be noise from the airport, noise from planes, etc. Now, I have seen, because I've been on the commission for a good 20 years, that no matter what, the developers go through, but there needs to be something that is required that people who have houses next to the airport have to be aware and have to have signatory to understand this, or we are indeed going to have multiple noise complaints, and not everything can be fixed with right traffic.
Here, here.
One of the things that and I share Steve's concerns about this development. One of the things that concerns me is I believe there's a school in this development. And, the issue of lead is becoming more and more of an issue. I don't know if commissioners are aware, but in Santa Clara County, a study was done of lead in children next to airports, and it found elevated levels of lead. And the Santa Clara Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to shut down that airport and/or mandate that no leaded fuels be used there. It's a big controversy right now. The FAA is lobbed back, and the EPA may get involved. So, but this was brought up by the guys doing the master plan about lead from these piston airplanes. So that's a whole nother element, literally, that comes into play if you're going to have a school that close to an airport.
Well, this isn't the first school that's close to the airport.
So
That's
Steve,
been-
I don't know if
Yeah.
you're aware or not, but we have many schools right near our airports. Okay,
Oh,
and
I am, and I'm old enough. I grew up with lead soldiers, and I grew up with leaded gas. But
no, but these departments of education have decided they're going to put it there, irregardless of the advice that they're given from the folks in the know.
well,
So
I would just say that our knowledge grows over time, and the perception of lead, as you well know, Casa Serena has lead paint and asbestos. You would never build a hotel with lead paint and asbestos today. So these things evolve. We learn more. We become smarter and wiser about things. And the issue of lead is different than it was 20 years ago or 30 or 50 years ago. So I think that could be an issue if they're going to put a school next to the airport, in a way that it wasn't an issue 50 years ago.
well, we put a school next to the airport like 6 or 7 years ago. So I don't know what you're talking about.
yeah, that's not the only one. We had multiple schools at the airport. This discussion's gone on over and over again.
But recently, the one right off on Fifth there,
Yep.
this commission tried to nix that school, and by God, the Oxnard Elementary system said, we know what we're doing and we don't care, and we're putting this school there. So,
Well, this study that was done in Santa Clara County was done fairly recently, and that is making the rounds, I'm sure, of the educational establishment. So there may be a sensitivity today that wasn't there back then.
Are there
Madam
any
Vice
other-
Chair, Madam
Yeah.
Vice Chair, this is Dave. I had just a couple of pieces of information. The latest version of the Teal Club proposal does not include a school. So they've removed that element from it.
Thank you, Dave.
And I would also say that staff is keenly aware of all of the different items in our arsenal. We do have some things that we can ask for and should be included in that. That would include fair disclosure requirements, aviation easement requirements that mitigate that threat. Doesn't relieve people who receive overflights from the physical exposure to it. So there's that. We're totally engaged in it and ready to come in with strongly worded arguments.
Thank you, Dave.
relative to that, and then the last thing I would say with leaded fuel, it is an item that the FAA is working very hard on to provide alternative fuel for the light aircraft that burn the unleaded or the leaded fuel in there. So it is something that everybody is aware of. And it's a problem that should decrease over time, not increase over time.
I think that Vice Chair Vandergraaf's comments should be presented to the city of Oxnard, that disclosure should require homeowners, would-be homeowners, to sign off on the problems that come with living next to an airport.
I still have what I had to sign.
So I would agree with both commissioners' comments, but I would add to it, one of the things I learned at the meeting that Director Freitas put together is it wasn't always this way. Lee, who's in the tower, said he used to live at Oxnard Shores and there was never a problem. And the reason was Camarillo was not a GA airport until 1976. And so in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, until 1976, it was not the problem. He said they would send the planes. He worked in the tower. He would send the planes miles to the east because there was no obstruction. But when Camarillo became a GA airport in 76, they couldn't do that anymore. So the point is, airports change. And what you have today, someone could have bought in 75 and said, great, I don't have a problem. And all of a sudden, 76, there's a brand new airport pushing all the traffic to the west. So there's a certain amount we can do with disclosures, but it's also a reality that the airport you have today may not be the airport you have in 5 years.
Steve, Camarillo was Oxnard Air Force Base.
I know.
There was a lot going on there in those years.
Yes.
But not touch and go. That was the point that Lee made. It was a different use that had a different impact.
Lots of touch and go from Oxnard Air Force Base. Lots of touch and go. They were training there. Come on, get real.
Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just reporting what I was told by Lee in the tower.
Well, he knows nothing about Oxnard Air Force Base.
Okay, are there any other comments? I'd like to adjourn the meeting.
I move we adjourn. Bobby.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Right.
By the way, Mr. Freitas, my compliments.
Stop share.